She played the fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance. I met her on Grafton Street, right outside of the bar. She shared a cigarette.
Coming to you from Grand Rounds Brewing Company and Restaurant, Our Town.
Do you want to drink on? She took Jamie as a chaser, Jack for the fun. She got Arthur on the table with Johnny riding a shotgun. Chatted some more, one more drink at the bar, then put Van on these box.
UMR began in Rochester with an emphasis on healthcare degrees. After a decade of growth, the university is eyeing expansion. Here to tell us more is Chancellor Lehmkuhle. Welcome, Chancellor.
Thank you.
So expansion, we've read a little bit about how the expansion is going to look a little less like a single campus expansion and more spread out. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I know that I have to start paying much more attention to it because we're full this year and I've got a waiting list, so I've got to think about how to expand. But one of the unique features of UMR is that we built a campus that's part of the community and not separate. And so we really want to be blended into it. So even as we expand, we want to continue to be part of the community. So we have been purchasing land down around the YMCA that's next to Soldiers Field. And the idea there is to protect a vision. And the vision that we have down there is to really develop an ecosystem that attracts entities that their mission is to develop human potential. So we want to be there, but I can imagine there being other higher ed institutions. I can imagine being an awesome daycare center there. I can imagine, the YMCA. I can imagine just all kinds of entities, and that collectively we really could be about developing human potential. This would be great benefits to us as our students because those kinds of experiences help them learn and grow. So that's what the vision is down at UMR. But it requires working. It's not something that we're going to do on our own. It's something that we have to do in partnership, and that's how we do business in Rochester.
Yeah, of course. And so one of the partnerships we've been hearing about is these P3 partnerships. Can you tell us about that?
One of the big challenges in higher education is our infrastructure. If you really think about the cost of a building, only 10 to 15% of the overall cost of the building is in its construction. The rest is in its operation and maintenance repair over its lifetime. And it turns out that when you get money to build a building, you often don't get the money to maintain and operate the building. And that's one of the challenges that we've had in higher education. In my opinion, one of the things that have been driving up tuition costs in a lot of institutions. So I don't want to put our growing campus in that type of situation. So public-private partnerships are new kinds of models where you work with the private sector to basically construct, operate, and maintain the building over a 30-year lifespan. You can construct, it's not necessarily a lease agreement, it's what you call a performance guarantee arrangement. In essence, they operate the building, they maintain it, they do it for 30 years. You pay an amount for that contract, and at the end of that 30 years, they can turn it over to you, and it has to meet certain criteria. Most of those criteria is that they have to have 85% of its life left. But it's a way that and the reason that I really want to do that is we are in the learning business. We're really good at that. I am really proud of how good we are in the learning business. But we're not very good, nor do I want to be real good in the real estate business. So I'm trying to get out of the real estate business, let somebody else who really knows how to do that well, and stay focused on the learning business.
You do best, of course. And since this is your current structure is downtown, and what does this expansion have anything to do with any of the DMC projects or any of the heart of the design?
Well, I hope that we add a lot of value to the DMC project. I mean, part of what's going to limit DMC growth is a workforce. So having a university here that's focused on the health sciences is going to help generate that workforce. It's going to enable DMC to grow. But if you imagine what we talked about around the YMCA down there, it will be a zone of the DMC, is now called the Learning and Recreation Zone, all right? That's going to be focused on the community. If you think about what we're doing there, it's all about the community. Where Heart of the City is going to have a focus on patients and visitors, and Discovery Square is going to have a focus on business and medicine interactions. But what's so cool is we'll be connected, abutting that kind of discovery space as well as this green space. It's a unique opportunity that I think we have in this nation, and Rochester can really put itself on the map. I often hear that that one of the most important things of attracting and retaining talent, which is going to be the differentiator for every community in terms of economic development, is if you have space where people really can learn and transform themselves. That's going to attract people, it's going to attract families, and it's going to retain that talent as the world ever changes.
Well, thank you so much, Chancellor. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Our Town is brought to you in part by the following amazing people and organizations.
The new Clements Subaru proudly partners with award-winning KSMQ Public Television. Clements Subaru of Rochester. Clements' clear value promise is to make buying a Subaru fast, fair, and simple. The Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
And the members of KSMQ Public Television. Thank you.
Stick around, more great partnerships ahead. The Rochester Downtown Alliance and the Minnesota Children's Museum Rochester are partnering for fun. The Let's Play Rochester installation is unveiled. This interactive outdoor art project features large-scale sidewalk decals encouraging creativity and amusement. Come along as our Walkabout correspondent checks it out. We visit with the folks from the First Unitarian Universalist Church in Rochester to learn more about their church's conversation about becoming a sanctuary congregation. And we find out which Rochester native had a part in the classic boxing film, Rocky. Up first, we Alamond Left and Do-Si-Do are partners in this week's Our Culture segment.
Brother Jude Fox, Sister Wine.
We enjoy square dancing for a lot of reasons. I'd say one of the things that's amazing, exercise.
Alan man left and leave the ring since you left me.
It also causes you to use your brain. You got a lot of calls, you got to be able to do them right away.
The only family I got to left.
And then if it doesn't work out, it's still fun with all the people that you get to dance with.
Four hands round the ring, go step away, swing through.
Square dancing is a truly American activity. It goes all the way back into the mid-1800s. I'm Monty Gensler, and I am a square dance caller.
Ferris wheel, pass through, swing that lady.
Each tip is divided into two songs. One is usually called a pattern song, where the caller will just walk people through different steps, different moves.
Step two away, swing through. Boy, run. You Ferris wheel.
Then usually the second song is a singing call, which we'll take a piece of music, edited to fit the square dance genre. Then we incorporate calls and movements into that song. We started out with just 5 or 10 calls that people did, and now in the mainstream level where we dance tonight, we have 68 calls.
You work your way around that ring, you find your gal promenade.
And each one of them, the caller puts into a certain position, will work you into, take you out of.
Now the four ladies chain across the ring you go.
So hopefully at the end of the song, you are back with your partner and back at your home position.
Do an element left. Promenade your gal back home. There you go.
It's like walking 5 miles. It's good exercise for old people like me.
Well, it's just plain fun. It's good, clean fun. And actually, I entered it as a single person, and it was safe socializing for a single person. Ironically enough, that's where I met my husband, Bill. It was supposed to be carpooling to other square dances, but after a few months, it wasn't carpooling anymore.
Now the boys circulate. Girls circulate. Boy, run around that girl.
We typically dance Probably an average of 3 nights a week. We try to get to just about every club that dances. We dance with Seal Steppers in Owatonna, Grapevine Twist in Albert Lee. Wednesday night we were over at La Crosse with the Happy Twirlers.
And it's a lot of fun, and I love music, especially, you know, Johnny Cash.
Love is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. Alaman left that corner, turn your partner by the right hand. Alaman left that corner, then you weave around the ring.
It's really the most fun of all the things I think I've ever done.
Swing through, everyone, and the boy run right. Couple circulate. Do a wheel and feel, just a little one.
For more information about this story and other Our Town features, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter at KSMQ #OurTown, or ksmq.org/OurTown.
We don't care anymore. Are we fading lovers? We keep wasting colors. Maybe we should let this go.
The Rochester City Council will have 5 new proposals to consider regarding the old Armory building. Last Friday's deadline for submissions resulted in ideas ranging from a multi-use event center for musical performances to a bookstore and artist studios. The old castle was built in 1915 and has remained in limbo since the Senior Center moved into its 125 live space last year. May is National Foster Care Month. Did you know Olmsted County has more than 90 licensed child foster homes? At any given time, the county has around 100 children in foster care. Needs range from emergency shelter to long-term care. If you're interested in learning more, visit co.olmsted.mn.us. And if your calling to help others includes travel to a foreign land, Christ United Methodist Church is organizing a mission trip to Guatemala. The team will deploy on February 2nd, 2018, returning on February 11th. Medical and dental professionals are particularly encouraged to join them. An informational meeting will be held Wednesday, May 24th at the church located at 400 Fifth Avenue Southwest. For families, summer can be anticipated with joy and dread. What are the kids going to do all summer long? At least those not on the 45-15 calendar at Longfellow. Fortunately, there are several camps offered in Southeast Minnesota to entertain youth from ages 3 to 18. Horseback riding, Lego robotics, theater. Check out choices at rochesterfamilies.com. Stay with us as we play downtown in this week's Walkabout.
2, 3, cut!
Hi everyone, my name is Payal Patel and I'm here with Our Town Walkabout. And today we are here with an alliance between Minnesota Children's Museum and Rochester Downtown Alliance. So what's going on today?
So we're doing a project called Let's Play Rochester. It's a decal project. So much like you've seen in other cities where they have chalk art on the sidewalk that looks like you might fall in or something like that, or encourages people to do something, that's what we're doing here. We have 3 decals. 2 of them encourage people to play in different ways. So whether it's striking a pose, clicking their heels, or one of the artist designed decals that we have where it looks like you're maybe looking through the sidewalk. It's really meant to encourage the power of play in people and that creative thinking.
Should we expect any other ideas to pop up throughout the summer or events?
Yeah, we're definitely going to try to add more decals as we go along that are artist designed, so definitely be on the lookout for that.
What we're really excited with in our partnership with Downtown Alliance is creating downtown to be more family friendly and really to allow a lot of the interactivity around connecting with each other.
Instead of always having large events and ticketed activities, this is the power of kind of passive programming and placemaking and allowing people to just pause and see and play and connect for a little bit.
What other ideas do you have to get kids out to play?
Yeah, well our vision is very simple. Kids play and adults do too. And so it's really to talk about the intergenerational components of play. And then in just quick pilots and prototypes and fun things like this that can pop up that really will continue to make Rochester the place where families can be and connect.
That sounds great. So thank you, Heidi. And my name is Payal again, and this has been another segment of Our Town Walkabout. I like how it goes right into the drain over there. That's really creative.
Stay with us for more Our Town. Phil Wheeler and Reverend Hudson are here from the First Unitarian Universalist Church in Rochester to talk about sanctuary status. Stick around.
Our past, remembering what made us who we are today. Brought to you by the History Center of Olmsted County.
In high school, Shirley O'Hara's favorite subject was journalism, taught by her favorite instructor, Aletha Herwig. After graduation, when she couldn't find work at the Post-Bulletin, she decided to go out west to visit friends. Shirley got a job at Saks Fifth Avenue in Los Angeles, running the elevator. 7 months and 3 promotions later, she was working at the hosiery counter. One of her best customers was the wife of a movie producer who told her husband he should meet her. After an interview and screen test, Shirley O'Hara became Shirley O'Hara and was under contract to RKO Studios. The very next day, she started filming her first movie. Over the years, Shirley appeared in more than 30 films and 100 television shows. In a letter home to her teacher, Ms. Herwig, Shirley wrote, "In case the Post-Bulletin can't find any clue of Cinderella, you might tell them who it is, so they don't think that Shirley O'Hara made up Rochester, Minnesota as her hometown."
What does it mean to be a sanctuary church? The First Unitarian Universalist Church in Rochester is looking into those answers. Phil Wheeler and Reverend Hudson are here to share their conversation with us. Welcome.
Good to be here.
So at its most basic, what is a sanctuary church?
We'll take a shot at it. The sanctuary church is one of either two types of churches. One is the church that provides sanctuary, legal assistance, a place to live until immigration status is resolved. The supporting congregation can provide supports, food, other kinds of assistance to the churches that are actually providing sanctuary. Mostly it is a matter of public witness against a law that, and its enforcement, that if you agree to be a sanctuary church, your congregation has agreed are not just.
And what prompted these conversations in your congregation?
In our case, it was the realization that we had neighbors, residents of this community, who were being compelled to do things like sign over custody of their citizen children because they were at risk of deportation, and other egregious sorts of things that were going on in response to immigration enforcement strategies. We've looked at immigration issues for some years now, and I guess that we reached a tipping point.
And you've come out with a resolution. Can you tell us a little bit about what parts of that, what is in that resolution?
Well, there's a bunch of reasons why we think that this is necessary, and then a commitment to educating ourselves and the community about problems with immigration law. And I should look at the resolution now. Perhaps you recall.
Well, clearly to be supportive of immigrants who are endangered with deportation is another dimension to it. Creating a network of other congregations. It's not a solo act on our part. We're hoping to create a Rochester network that is supportive of immigrants and protects people from premature deportation. But now you're reading, Phil, so probably
actually,
know.
You've covered it all except for that we're committing ourselves to seeking changes in immigration law and enforcement practices.
Right.
And so you talked about this network. So does this network involve other churches? Do you know about other churches that have similar, are talking about this in their congregations?
Yes.
Or have similar?
We're aware of other congregations that are pursuing it in their own kind of way. It's a conversation among various churches, and each of them has their own governance system. Our system happens to be a kind of open resolution process, so that's the reason that we're kind of out and proud. Okay.
So are there some common threads, though, across these different congregations that you know of?
Clearly the cause. We share a perception that our neighbors are in danger of premature deportation and without the protections that our laws provide for people who, though they are not citizens, are nevertheless people.
I think some of them at least are going through the same sort of discernment process where they are looking at the moral justification, the logistical aspects how would we do this? What liability do we have, and so on.
And what are some of the practical implications of being a sanctuary church? What would that look like in the everyday for your congregation?
We have to work that out with our insurance company, partly. As a practical matter, in our church, we can't provide sanctuary for very long. We don't have commercial cooking facilities. We don't have a shower. We don't have bedroom areas that would be appropriate. But we will still have to organize assistance so that a group of volunteers in our church will help other churches in the same way that the Interfaith Hospitality Network, which is now called Family Promise, works. We're a buddy church for a church that's actually providing housing for homeless families. This will be similar to that, except that the homeless person will be virtually under house arrest at a church. So, right.
And some of I guess there have been some arguments for and against. Can you talk a little bit about some of those arguments for and against being a sanctuary church?
I think probably the primary concern people have is this is a matter of civil disobedience. It's a matter of breaking the law, at least in certain interpretations of immigration law. Simply allowing a person to stay in your home or in your church who doesn't have legal status is at least potentially construed as breaking the law. There is a long history in our religious perspective for civil disobedience when a moral law seems to be contrary to the civil law. And so I think that's probably our major areas of concern. The logistics, that's a matter of concern, just how to keep our property safe and how to keep our people safe. But mostly it's a discussion of does morality trump legal law at this point? Is that a fair statement, Bill?
Well, and then there's other questions about to what extent is the law unjust? And to what extent is its enforcement unjust? And we think the case is pretty compelling that it's an unjust system when you treat children who come here as infants in the same way as adults who are deliberately making an error or making a decision to cross a border without documentation. That when you treat long-term people who have contributed for over a long period of time to Social Security, to the tax base and so on, and when you treat them in the same way as you might treat a convicted criminal. These are distinctions that the law ought to make. The law ought to make a path for legally working here if we are going to have employers who are not penalized for hiring people with employer-issued IDs, for example. It's a very unbalanced system now.
And so there's a lot of legal implications as well in terms of
right.
The risk that your church is putting itself in and things like that. Is that something that you're talking about?
We are talking about the desirability of changing the law. We don't have any sort of agreement on what exactly needs to be done. We do have agreement, perhaps, we'll see, that the law as it's currently written is not working well and not treating people fairly. I think we probably have agreement on that. We'll see.
Well, exactly, we'll see. And this is, I call us a radical democracy. We want everyone to participate in this discussion. And the education part, which is the part we're in now, is for every congregate member. We have 350 members who get to vote on this question, and we want them to do so in an informed fashion. We recognize it probably won't be a unanimous vote. We want those that find themselves in the minority feel like they've been heard, their concerns have been heard, and that's really the part that we're in right now. We're simply practicing our faith's belief that we take moral questions seriously and discuss them and resolve them as a community.
And so what are the options if the resolution does not pass?
Well, there are some things that a set of congregation members lower than the whole congregation can do. We can ask for changes in immigration law. We can lobby and so on like that. But we can't take a public witness as we are a sanctuary church and here's what this means. That takes a congregational support. So, for example, harboring somebody overnight on their way to another church, we would be unable to do that without congregational support. We can do a lot of education and a lot of advocacy without having the full congregation in support of it.
And when will that final vote be taking place for this resolution?
Well, it depends a lot on the sorts of questions we get at our forums. We're having a forum this weekend, and we'll have another forum sometime probably in the summer. And then So our vote comes when everybody is satisfied that we've talked about it enough. Or not everybody, but at least the board and the Social Justice Council agree that it's been talked. Okay. Not to death.
No, we will survive this experience.
Right.
So we're running out of time here, so thank you so much.
Summer. That's my hope, is that we'll vote this summer.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Next week, we talk with John Reed about the Rochester International Airport. We learn how to relax, and we learn why Olmsted County no longer has a pork farm. See you then on Our Town, the show about Rochester.
You can access more information about KSMQ on Facebook and at ksmq.org.